Welcome back to the desk once again. The summer finals are underway and the temperature's about to get warmer once more. It's into the upper bracket we go this afternoon to take on, well, have a look at Europe versus North America for the remainder of the day.
NRG versus Spacestation right off the bat, man. It's only Thursday, Graham. Can you believe it? This is where the good stuff. I mean, look, these were great games beforehand, particularly game one of Atletico and Black Dragons.
Yeah.
But those were the excellent appetizer to the main course that you've been waiting for.
And now, straight after the NRG versus Spacestation, we get a Worlds rematch one more time. United versus Rival. This time, though, both these games, best of three. Losers do not get eliminated. They'll drop down to the lower bracket, as you could see there, to take on both Latin America and Brazil respectively. NRG, first of all, on your screen. My oh my, they've come a long way, it feels like, this year.
Man, they sure have. They started the spring split. They came out like a bat out of hell. They were playing great. Everything was clicking. And then the sort of sophomore slump happened, right? Where they kind of got through that honeymoon phase of the new player there, EmilZy in the support role, where everyone's happy. It's a new teammate. Everything's working for you. And then that kind of passed, and NRG went into struggle mode a little bit and didn't make that spring land. But ever since then, they have looked so strong. They seem to have really gotten their communication in order, their team play in order, and emilitoo adapting Yammyn. They've all stepped up and look like the former selves.
Yeah, it seems the attitude and fun. They're starting to have fun again, it seems, with Energy Boys.
Yep.
There was a chance to catch up with him today before this match and see how they felt going against Spacestation Gaming.
All right, I'm here with NRG, specifically in the duo lane. Y'all are going to be going up against Spacestation. So I guess my first thought is, how are y'all feeling specifically about that matchup up against Jeff and BaRRa, that very, fan-favorite duo lane?
I think it's always fun to play against Jeff and BaRRa. They're great players. They're like old-school people, like me. Not like Nils, but...
Come on, man. I actually won a tournament before he did, so...
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, assuming the best of the situation, that you do end up beating a Space Station, how are you guys feeling about whoever you might have to face next between United and Rival, and which would you probably prefer?
Oof. Honestly, I think I might prefer playing Rival if we go through here. I feel like I think that the team we know better, because we've scrimmed them a lot, and playing United a bit, and just like seeing what they play and knowing that they have so much more than that, it's a bit scary compared to Rival that we know that well, so I definitely prefer playing Rival.
Now, sometimes when you play up against North American teams, you don't play as much, but you all have been around so long that you actually do have plenty of experience up against some of these players on Space Station. Does that help you at all when you go into this set, like all those times you played them before, or are things just too different now?
Personally, I hate playing against NA teams because the way they play around the duo lane is really frustrating, and I know how they play, so like I'm prepared of their play style because it's very different to Europe, but yeah, previous games have helped.
Well, you guys might be the duo lane, but how are you feeling about looking towards the mid and jungle kind of matchups? Because we've been seeing a lot more diversity, I think, in terms of map pressure spread. And do you think that's going to continue being mostly a mid jungle focus, or that things might start shifting a little bit outwards?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. I feel like it depends so much on the game, right? Like, it depends, do you have global ults, do you not have global ults? Like, how do you want to play? Do you want to go for the 3v3 or the 2v2 in mid or whatever? So it's so game dependent, and it's hard to say really where the meta is going, because this is our first game against a real competitor. Excuse me, but I'm sorry. But I feel like, and that's going to set the LAN meta, and I'm not sure if the LAN meta is going to be more outward or inward when it comes to that.
Well, emilitoo, are we going to be able to see you give up first blood here again in this game as well, as we often say that you do?
You can count on me dying first, yes.
I'll make sure he does. Don't worry about that.
All right, well, we definitely want to give you all good luck here in this match coming up. We're very much looking forward to it. Should be a good set. Thanks for coming.
The entertaining duo lane from NRG there, and as always, they're going to have fun in games with us. Yes, emilitoo may die quite a lot, but they still find the victories even if he does die.
emilitoo, how often have we seen him start out 0-1 or 0-2 and then finish 6-1 or 6-2? He's a team fight monster. He's great in lane. Emil, for a long time, for my money, was the best hunter in the world, and I think he's getting close to that title once again.
Well, Yammyn in the mid lane, been around for a long time. That's his situation so far at the Summerlands 5-2. Not the highest KDA we've seen in a little while, but it's not the worst in the world either for him.
No, and he looked really, really good yesterday.
The Thoth plays,
Thoth,
yeah.
man, it was it was nasty. So when Yammyn, this is the first time he's played at this studio, a bit of a different setup. First game he sits down and looks like he's playing with his eyes closed and just it is feeling everything happening around him more so than reacting.
Well, Europe's been very tight at the top, and you never knew which teams were going to be making it to LAN, but their opposition today, you had a feeling they were going to make it here alongside United once more. They've been the top two. Spacestation Gaming, the classic roster that everyone's been talking about for a while now. They've been, well, to a couple of places in a row with this team.
And they always seem to end up fighting NRG at some point, don't they? They never, whenever these two are in the same bracket, there's some sort of magnetism there, and they still haven't beaten them yet. This has been a consistent thorn in this roster's side. Not just this roster, but Season 3 for Luminosity, Season 2 for Cloud9. When these two are in the same bracket, they fight every time.
Well, we heard from NRG. Let's have a listen to what Spacestation have to say coming into the game today.
We're here now with Spacestation's very own sex tank duo lane, Mr. BaRRaCCuDDa and JeffHindla himself. How are you guys feeling today?
I just had a giant swallow of saliva, so I'm doing pretty good.
Fantastic.
And I know that all giggling aside and everything, you guys have a pretty serious matchup coming forward with this energy, and we've been down the block this way a few times now. So, how's like the team mentality and energy feeling for that?
We definitely have our game plan. We know what we want to do. Overall, we're pretty confident this time around, for sure.
So there's a couple other folks on y'all's squad. I assume they're like practicing really hard right now or scrimming, or where are they at? How come we can't get them in here for some interviews?
Well, I was told I wasn't supposed to do this interview, and he was all confident at breakfast. He was like, I'm going to do the pregame interview, and like, I'll get awkward, Baskin, and do it, whatever. And then I was literally told, Barry, go do the interview. I'm like, what? Like, you guys literally told me, don't do the interview. But
I feel like for every interview you have to do in Baskin's place is just one more red buff he'll be forced to give you throughout the match.
Oh, that means I get one this game. Thank God.
Nope.
Well, we talked to EmilZy and emilitoo, your dual lane opponent here just before this one. Talk to you a little bit about that matchup in particular, because you all actually do have some experience going up against those two over time. So how do you all feel about that matchup in particular?
So honestly, we've played against them separately most of the time, right? So we've played against Obey, we've played against NRG, and last time we played NRG, we were playing against Fafnir and emilitoo. So I definitely want to see how that dynamic's changed and what they're looking to do as opposed to how they used to play it.
And I just love playing against emilitoo. Like, he's a really, really, really good player. So me and him just kind of butt heads the entire laning phase, but hopefully one of us doesn't have red buff while the other doesn't.
That's normally not the ideal boxing situation, but we got their take on things with the best case scenario, which is obviously winning the set. So if you guys were to win this set up against NRG, who would you probably prefer to play out of United and Rival?
Honestly, Rival, I don't know how much they were trolling in their Black Dragons games, but those games were something. So if Rival somehow beats a United, I would much rather play Rival.
Okay, so you feel like you have a better chance against Rival, or you just feel like you'd have better games if it was up against Rival?
Better chance against Rival, for sure.
Okay, absolutely. Well, definitely thank y'all for stepping in here for the interview. Good luck in this set that's coming up here up against NRG, and we'll check in with y'all later.
Spacestation Gaming in good spirits as always. But from what I could hear from both those interviews, Ryan, it seems that maybe Rival have thrown a red herring into this mix a little bit, and a lot of people are quite happy about potentially wanting to face off against them.
Maybe. I just think the teams are really feeling like United might be the favorite here at this LAN. United, I mean, obviously had their fun yesterday with Atletico, but their level of play during the online portion of the summer split and how they kind of have held themselves recently, they seem like they've got a pretty decent grasp on the meta, and I don't think teams are ready for them yet.
We had a look at Baskin there, his opponent Yammyn. The two mid laners very important to these squads. Let's get into picks and bans. I did like what BaRRa was saying though. Like, he likes going against emilitoo because it's not easy.
Yes.
Like, that's a good thing, right? When you've got players in a team that you want to win games, but you want to have a good old scrap too sometimes against people that are just as good as you.
I mean, hey, this is something that, they didn't really touch on it during the interview, but this has got to be a frustration factor for Spacestation at some point, right?
Sure.
They've never beaten this team. in a best of 5,
And
at least
even
to my
with
knowledge.
Both teams changing, if you think about
Yeah.
it too. They've both had, had to adapt over the years, no pun intended, in terms of the roster switches they've had. Yet still, NRG seem to have Space Station Gaming's number. We'll find out though if this game's different.
Wow.
These bans are flying through. One thing that won't be flying is Chernobog.
I'm surprised at the Artemis ban, not at the Chernobog ban, because I think that is a great throwaway ban right now. One that is strong, but not game-breaking, that you wouldn't have first picked it for yourself and felt like you instantly win the game. I am very surprised at that Artemis ban, though. I feel like Space Station would have been forced to ban it themselves.
Funny enough, though, I do think NRG may go with the Jingwei pick and then make BaRRaCCuDDa go elsewhere on
Not
the Hunters.
first pick, though, really?
I think maybe an early pick of it, just to not give
Sure.
BaRRaCCuDDa, because then he's like, well, what's he going to play next after that?
Top 3, sure, but I don't know. I do think that there is a potentially a gap there between Jingwei and the next best hunter available, which would probably be Hachiman.
Well, maybe the plan is to put him on the Jingwei
Maybe.
and then
punish
play
it.
through the Jingwei. A Wheelix is something, like, I always think about, why, what can you do against a Jingwei? A Wheelix is always good. Giannis banned out, so Space Station focusing towards those mid lane mages, making sure Yammyn does not get hold of that Thoth again that's caused so many problems. NRG gonna first pick the Zhong, more than likely for the solo lane of maniaKK.
No ban against Aquarius' Chang'e stands out to me here as well. So I wonder if this is NRG saying, we're going to take Zhong.
Yeah.
And in Space Station's response, if I'm in their comms right now, I'm probably saying
Jing
that
Wei
is
Athena.
going to maniaKK, so we don't need to worry about that going mid, I don't think.
True.
So we can wait on the Chang'e selection. But let's pick it third unless they pick Odin, because then we can't ban it away. I think Athena Serqet is very smart here from Space Station. I'm not of the opinion that you need to early pick Jingwei
No, I agree.
right now. But I think these two picks are pretty solid. I really think that as long as there isn't a dedicated anti-healer in the next two picks for NRG, that Space Station should go Chang'e.
NRG have flirted in the dual lane before with the Magicals, the Chronos and the likes of seen, and definitely BaRRaCCuDDa ran towards the Soul before. Both those not seen as often these days, however, in competitive play in the dual lane, but both hunters definitely versatile in playing the mages where required, could always mix things up, and both these teams would have strategized with some special things for each other in this set.
Very much one of those picks that both of these players can play, like those Souls, the new IADC. I don't think we're going to see that today, but you never really know with NRG. A team that is always kind of thought of as more traditional, but I think people forget at how much they're willing to experiment and try new things. And even in LAN situations, this is a team that it has the capability, I think, more than any other team at LAN, except for maybe Rival. They could get shut out and lose in 17 minutes and still feel like it was just because of what they did wrong, and they'll be able to win the next game anyways. I think that really hard mentality to break has been a huge factor in NRG's historic success.
Ratatoskr and Fafnir, surprisingly enough. The Fafnir not seen too much of just lately. Always useful with double hunter compositions, which we've seen, but it doesn't mean he has to only be ran in double hunter situations.
Right. It is interesting, and this is awfully early for it from NRG.
Yeah.
I do think that if you're going for a double hunter, you can easily take Jingwei, Hachiman, whatever you want in that spot right underneath Ratatoskr. SSG will take their bans, then you can go Hunter Fafnir as your last two picks. But NRG, I mean, look, EmilZy's been playing it for a long time. This surprises me, though.
The Raijin?
The Raijin, I don't know. I just think that Aquarius, his Chang'e has been so good. I think Aquarius' Chang'e has been the best Chang'e, and that's saying a lot because every solo laner under the sun has been playing that goddess since he did at the beginning of the summer split. And I think that without the Odin on the table, Ratatoskr camping you alongside Zhong isn't that bad in my mind, that Aquarius couldn't have gotten out of that laning phase, not for free necessarily, but with some degree of guaranteed safety. It surprises me that Space Station didn't pick it.
There's a really interesting ban phase this, and pick phase too. The Fafnir, going back to that real quick, we saw EmilZy play yesterday very, well, out of position, baiting himself a lot. That's what something Fafnir is very good at, trying to lure people into awkward positions where you can turn that around. And the Raijin, it could be a takeaway from Yammyn in that mid lane too, just to make sure he can't have that for himself.
Sure, but can't you ban that if you would go Chang'e in that spot? I mean, your first ban there in the second phase. So I do think that it can work. I just think that Raijin isn't that much better than every other mid laner right now. I mean, every mid laner outside of Giannis and Thoth was kind of on the table. I'm looking at Discordia is a potential selection. Agni, Poseidon, Ra, all this stuff is available.
Look at these bans. NRG focusing everything into the Hunter God pool, whereas SSG all towards the majors. So Yammyn being focused out from NRG, and meanwhile BaRRaCCuDDa saying, hey, you're going to have to play something deeper in the God pool.
Yeah, I think this might be a Jing Wei ban next, just because it is so popular right now, and it's good against the Ratatoskr, nullifies his ultimate very easily with that ability to dash when knocked up. So I think if NRG are dedicated to banning Hunters, they should go for that Jing Wei. This is a really smart Neath ban, though, by SSG, because I think the game plan there from NRG is to exhaust the Hunter God pool and then take the Neath that was what they wanted all along anyways, because they know BaRRaCCuDDa's unlikely to take it. Neath has historically been a very popular pick for NRG.
Medusa instantly locked in from Spacestation Gaming after the Chongo was taken away from Aquarius that could have potentially still picked it here. NRG then with the last two decisions. With the comp they've got here, we'll find out more. It will be Jing Wei for NRG then. And the Sol. Something we've not seen too much of just lately. But the Fafnir definitely plays
Fafnir
into
makes
this.
Sense. Yep, Fafnir makes sense. This was what they were likely looking for this whole time, so they do go for the Sol. No surprise there with that Fafnir. NRG looking to do it in on the round of the objectives. Thanatos solo.
Is that what it is?
Thanatos solo, guaranteed.
Against the Zhong.
Yep.
We saw it earlier on this tournament.
We did see it earlier on this tournament. That was by Benji. That was E United playing up against Atletico. You know these teams practice with one another quite a bit.
Maybe that's the answer to Zhong.
Maybe it is. And Aquarius, don't forget, has played this pick before. This was last year during Super Regionals that he said, give me Thanatos. That was a, Game 5 or Game 3 situation, make or break sort of game. Because I know, because I was talking to the Space Station guys yesterday during our interview, and BaRRa cited that as a big realization moment that this is Aquarius taking up a leadership role on this team. And he was saying that it was a tough game. They had to get to the Worlds in the right seed. And he goes, give me Thanatos. And they're like, what? Why would you want Thanatos? He was like, just trust me. And if you remember that game, he gets a double kill very early on and hard carries from there. So I love the confidence pick. Aquarius was telling me he's very excited to go up against maniaKK again. And now he's going to try and make it happen with a bit of spice.
Fans watching in Mixer Chat now, get your vote in for who you think will win Game 1. Aggro, both these teams, very team fight heavy on both compositions here. I would say I feel like NRG's backline has a little bit more self-peel with this Jing Wei and the Sol for escapability.
Absolutely.
But I do feel Space Station Gaming can cause a lot of problems too.
Yeah, I think I prefer NRG's comp, and you can tell how confident I am in that. I don't know. I think that I could easily see, for whatever reason, I don't think this is going to be a close game. I think this one's over pretty quickly, one way or the other. I just can't call which one.
Well, you talk about being pretty quick. These players are ready to go. We need to get it down to the casters. They're standing by right now. It's Finch and Sacco.
NRG up against Space Station Gaming, a big-time set here. Again, we're back in the upper bracket. And to avoid getting knocked down, Aquarius is going to take the Thanatos over into the solo lane. Taco, you and I were talking about that this Thanatos might have a good matchup into the Zhong, give you a chance to execute maybe.
I like the mentality here, or the potential concept, because what was going through my mind
just
when
boots
I saw
right
this,
off the bat too.
Boots straight up, might as well try and throw out as much aggro as possible. He's got the... it's a really risky start. Don't get me wrong. Health Chalice alongside of the T2 boots, but it's an aggressive start, and that's exactly how you have to play the Thanatos pick. But what I wanted to say is I'm looking mostly towards the synergy between Aquarius and andinster this match, because if there's ever a way to set somebody up for that execute threshold, it's the last breath.
Yeah, that way they can't like heal back up and pass over it again. It could potentially be a combination that can guarantee you get that execute off through some of the things that can sometimes cause some problems. So we'll see how well they'll be able to pair up, as NRG kind of doing things a little bit different themselves, pulling out the Fafnir, which you often see with double hunters, but they're getting their double hunter, in quotes, by way of the Sol in the mid lane. We haven't seen as much of her, but Taco, you feel like this Sol pick is still plenty strong.
This Sol pick still has plenty of viability in the mid lane, lots of survivability especially. I think the main reason Yammyn probably opted for it is because of the fact that there is a Serqet on the table, and whenever that's in the realm of possibilities, you want a way to self-peel for yourself and separate some distance for that Serqet, making it a lot more problematic for andinster to actually try and fully commit.
This whole team really, it feels like from NRG, are relatively safe. Either that or not easy to kill, right? Zhong is tough to kill. emilitoo and Yammyn are both relatively safe as well. Even emilZy can go into the Draconic Corruption, and you can't really damage him during that. So they have a team that's not easy to kill, and you can see that reflected here in the poll votes. 57% energy, 43% over to Spacestation. Even the chat, very split.
But just look at how Aquarius is tackling this solo lane. He's already backing so early on at level 2. He's got that TP ready to go, but he just needed the Warrior Tabi. He is looking to pressure out maniaKK from the start, and Warrior Tabi rush, one of the best ways you could probably think of to do it.
Oh, absolutely, and he should be able to have pretty free reign, especially through these early levels where he's not going to have to worry as much about adapting, being over here to cause pressure. In fact, maniaKK in first blood threshold already. Aquarius puts him down with a Thanatos solo. That's how you get things started.
He knew that he had the boots coming back into this lane, but maniaKK still trying to push his luck there in that wave. Got a little bit too greedy for it. It's really the connection on that dead site though. Aquarius, pinpoint accuracy every single time, and you'll be able to keep repeating that no problem.
And we gotta just make sure that we give plenty of credit here to Aqua, because it's not just that he's executing the call itself to go give me Thanatos in this first big matchup up against NRG, when this Space Station team really hasn't had that much experience against them, because NRG kind of had some swaps ups in support and weren't here in spring, but he was not nervous about it at all. Give me this Thanatos, and he's already shown why.
There's more than just one benefit though to that first blood happening in solo. It's not just the fact that Aquarius is now automatically ahead of maniaKK, but it's also the fact that now adapting has to maybe make a decision on whether or not he tries to alleviate some of that solo lane pressure by rotating, preventing his blue buff from being stolen away from his solo laner. But we got andinster with the same sort of mentality going on here. He's looking for the aggression onto adapting also.
Be careful though, the Acorn is finished for adapting, could give him an advantage here as andinster takes half his HP, but Aquarius chunks adapting and he has to fall back. Yammyn has rotated over, not going to be much damage, but at this point, Space Station's damage is done.
And that's everything that they needed to do. Get in, get the buff, get out. Don't waste any time dawdling your thumbs around. You just need to make sure that you aren't overextending your welcome, because it doesn't take long for Yammyn to venture from mid to his own side of the jungle in the solo territory. So it could very easily get turned against Space Station if they're not careful on those invades.
It was good of Yammyn to show up and try and help. Also good from emilZy. He rotates over and I believe is able to disrupt that red buff invade that was trying to come out from Space Station Gaming. We saw JeffHindla and Baskin there trying to strip that one away as they'll grab their own purple buff. So there is some action that starts things off in solo, but everywhere else has been relatively quiet. You know, this dual lane going the way we might expect, and JeffHindla kind of rotating a little bit early.
One big difference, though, between these two junglers is that since adapting is on the Ratatoskr, he's already got that Acorn finished off. That's all of his mobility right then and there. andinster, however, has not had a chance to back just yet, so he probably won't be able to get off any ganks anytime soon. And that's going to leave a little bit of an opening if adapting wants to try and make something happen on the map.
Adapting comes over, but that's not really so much a gank attempt this time as just helping clear the wave and relieve some of this pressure for maniaKK. It's something as simple as just putting some extra damage in so he doesn't have to step up into danger to get it clear. Helps out a lot. Trying to reset sort of the wave pressure here for maniaKK as Aquarius really kind of just has all the control.
One of the main reasons why this Thanatos pick might have been a little bit overthought of or overlooked is because of the fact that he's healing inside of the creep wave. Normally, the problem with dealing with a Zhong is that the card not only ticks away at your health, but it destroys your minions in the process. But since Thanatos regens off of getting those last hits, he's in a pretty nice position to where he can force maniaKK back to his tower line.
Well, the blue buff invade coming out again. JeffHindla doesn't have Defender of Olympus, and the Scythe from Aquarius is off the mark. They do have a ward here, so they have vision of adapting, trying to finish this buff off, but Space Station have to give up the Ghost. The rotation from NRG, bringing emilZy over is enough to keep their buff standing. Space Station just gonna have to settle for mid Harpies on this one.
And Jeff's not level 5 yet either, so until he gets that Defender of Olympus online, they're gonna have to take it just a little bit easy because emilZy's got the Draconic form ready to go if needed.
Look at that Raijin just crashing through. Raijin early on, it feels like his damage is so easily confirmable, right, Taco? Like, it's difficult to avoid it if you're on the other side of that Raijin. between the Percussive Storm and the Raijin. We're seeing some of that go to work here.
And this all just feeds one more time, even more so into this Aquarius Thanatos solo strategy. I don't want to say whether or not he's going to full commit to a damage build. I do expect it to be a little bit more bruiser-oriented in that he'll have physical or power items as well as defensive items.
Yeah.
Love this pick of the Runic Shield, though. Mage solo, not building into the pen boots. He's got those cooldown boots instead, and that's going to make him struggle because he doesn't have the same level of power when it's all getting reduced.
That's going to be the idea, not just going to be hindering maniaKK, but even Yammyn if he ends up trying to look for the soul as well. So a nice strong item for Aquarius, trying to have maximum impact when he rotates around. As we go to the 6.5 minute mark, aside from that first blood, not many attempts on anyone's life here so far, and Aquarius making this Thanatos pick work out for him. But sort of when is the next time we're going to see Aquarius look to make a move here? Or is it just on these blue buffs? Is he going to be looking to gank? Or maybe it's just going to be adapting who goes up for the knock, but hovering death comes out. Aquarius should be fine.
Aquarius actually choosing to go in there onto maniaKK, who's going to get taunted back in. Huge sight to the face. Going to take out a large chunk of his HP, but Jeff and Aquarius, they leave half healthed. Same for maniaKK, but adapting still lurking right around the corner, seeing if he can maybe re-aggress.
A lot of ultimates expended there, but no one ends up falling. It is going to be JeffHindla and Aqua there, along with adapting and maniaKK. BaRRaCCuDDa just dropped Petrify onto emilitoo to force him back in the dual lane, and he wants to go aggressive. BaRRaCCuDDa said in the interview he likes boxing here up against emilitoo and seems happy to take it here in lane.
Barrow's got to take those boxing matches because he's the one with the red buff this time around. He mentioned in his interview also, you don't want to be the hunter caught out without the red buff. You just can't match the same level of power in those auto attacks, and emilitoo knows it, which is why he's giving respect to BaRRa in the lane and choosing to back off there.
But to go back to the play we saw over in solo lane there, Taco, I think we're seeing sort of the writing on the wall for the Space Station draft, right, where Aquarius goes up to avoid getting knocked up by adapting and hovering death, but gets JeffHindla's ultimate, so he goes back in aggressive. He felt confident in that situation.
Every part of their composition complements the execute mentality beautifully. You've got Defender of Olympus to help with the chase down, damage mitigation in case you need to get those dives off, and then andinster, last spread, anti-heal, as well as true damage, so that's going to further tick away at somebody's health bar, and just in case all of that doesn't end up panning out, Baskin with the damage.
That's right. You can always rely on Baskin to either finish them off himself or at least get them into range for Aquarius to be able to find those executes, as he is already level 9, right up there with Baskin in terms of highest levels in the game. Even emilitoo, who despite some of the pressure we saw from BaRRaCCuDDa appears to be farming well and is positioned rather aggressively here in the dual lane. BaRRaCCuDDa going to have to defend the perp buff against him, but JeffHindla's on his way here. emilitoo might need to be careful, but he's got some support.
He knows that he's got 3 other members from his team right beside him if need be. With adapting Yammyn and emilZy all making their presence known on the duo, it's no wonder that BaRRa realizes he can't actually contest that purple buff, so he'll miss out on a little bit of XP, which hurts just slightly. In the end, though, I'm sure he'd rather take that hit than his own life.
andinster lurking around the mid lane as Baskin goes in aggressive with the Thunder Crash. Supernova comes out from Yammyn as well on top of himself, so Yammyn felt under a good amount of pressure there in the mid lane, but there really wasn't a hard commit coming out from Space Station. I think Baskin kind of baited it out there or oversold it and gets that Supernova for free.
But everybody from NRG, they're all inside of the mid lane. That leaves the blue buff open for the taking, and sure enough, just like that, Aquarius and andinster make quick work of maniaK's blue buff, and one more time, maniaKK gonna be manaless in this solo lane.
And Taco, when we were talking, about what we were expecting to happen here at this LAN event, some of us were like, NRG look like NRG of old, and some of us were like, Rivals, been so consistent, how can you not pick them? Or United, they appear to be at that world champion form again, but there wasn't much talk about Space Station. They've struggled a little bit here in summer. They haven't looked maybe the way they used to, but this performance already, I know it's early, they definitely look like they came here to play. They had their strats, and they're looking strong.
Risk first reward seems to be the overall concept here for Space Station. I can't blame them. We've seen this matchup so many times in the past, and it has never once gone in Space Station's favor. It's time to shake things up a little bit, and what better way to do it than with a Thanatos solo?
Yeah, this is their big HRX roadblock, isn't it, as Aquarius forced up into the hovering death. Adapting and maniaKK forced the defensive use of this ultimate. He should be able to cover enough ground where he shouldn't have to worry, though, so Aquarius will be just fine and is happy going to be aggressive proxy farming anyway and forcing adapting over to solo.
I like this from Aquarius also. He knows that he needs to play it completely safe. Adapting could have given chase with that through the Cosmos, but he didn't want to over-aggress without maniaK there to back him up. He knew that the Zhong was just a little bit too low on mana for him to feel confident with fully diving that.
JeffHindla gets the taunt off onto emilZy. He takes a little bit of damage. I've been curious about where Aquarius is going to be going with this build path. Glad Shield appears to be the next step for him, so kind of all in on being able to hit that scythe. Even more return he'll be getting in terms of health once that ends up landing.
Thanatos doesn't necessarily need as much penetration, gets a
That's
lot
true.
of it as is, and with that in mind, I think the Glad Shield's also a pretty smart pickup, because in case Adapting does decide to continue making his presence known in solo, where a lot of the action has been taking place, he'll heal just a little bit every time he does something.
It has been a lot of aggression over here, and NRG were saying they were worried because NA plays around duo a lot, but hold that thought, emilZy in a whole world of trouble. Andinster gets that first kill of that game. Adapting falls as well. This time it's to Baskin. 2 quick kills for Spacestation, but maniaK not done yet. He wants to stop Baskin before JeffHindla even makes it over. That's a kill for NRG as well.
Aquarius, huge chunk onto maniaK with that dead side, now getting him into the execute threshold. He will heal it back up, no problem, but he's not going to be able to escape. Oh, actually he is! Yammyn with the backup of the creep wave to boot, ends up taking down Aquarius.
What looked like a great fight at the start for Spacestation Gaming does end up being a 2-for-2 overall. NRG are able to come back and even that up. maniaK has so much damage when he's dropping that ultimate in the middle of the team fights, and then big boy Yammyn coming in and able to help make sure he makes it out.
I was so convinced that maniaK was going to end up falling there, but that creep wave came in just the nick of time to bail him out.
And this is what we were talking about, right? How maniaK might be able to heal up outside of the execute threshold. It's why we were sort of saying we really liked this Serqet pick, not just because she's strong, but because she can limit that and kind of help make sure you stay in execute threshold. That was the key difference. Because Aquarius couldn't get the execute and had to keep chasing, he's the one that ends up falling.
Showing the dangers, though, of a Zhong, even in the solo lane, from being a little bit behind, it doesn't make all that much of a difference as far as the team fights are concerned. maniaK rotates in, and the kills happen.
Works out well for them as Adapting goes up through the Cosmos. Can't find anything with Aquarius as there's 3 members in his solo lane, and they're going to go for the dive. He's not particularly tanky. maniaK is trying to make this happen, but the rotation comes in from Baskin, taunts him back inside the tower line. Still not enough to bring him down, but Aquarius comes in with the blink, has the execute, and maniaK's in the ground. emilZy goes up into Draconic Corruption, but everyone's waiting on him when he comes back out, and andinster shuts him down as well. 2 quick kills for SSG.
And it looked so promising for NRG at the start, but Adapting used that through the Cosmos so early on, hoping that Aquarius was going to still try and contest his own blue buff. Instead, he winds up short, doesn't get to connect that ult onto anybody, and that just means go for Spacestation. And they're still looking for more. The Pyromancer probably going to end up falling in their favor. Sure enough, just like that, everything's tied, break even one more time.
That's a great point, Taco. The misread there, I feel like, from Adapting ends up costing them because they don't have one of their key ultimates. That would have helped that dive tremendously. Instead, they just kind of walk towards Aquarius underneath the tower. He does a great job making sure that he stays alive by hitting those death sights, and then the rotation comes in for Baskin. The taunts to sort of bring maniaK back into the tower line, get some shots, execute lands. A great fight there from Spacestation. This Thanatos, I'm sure we all knew this already, but this is not something they just haphazardly picked. They absolutely knew how to play around.
The Thanatos solo is something that I think has always been in the back pocket there for Aquarius and Spacestation as a whole. I mean, it's something that we haven't seen since Mask was on the team, but by no means has Aquarius put this up to retire. It has its moment, it has its place. It's just a very niche pick that it needs the right composition built around it. And that's what Spacestation are really trying to bank off of here, is that they have the burst damage necessary and the anti-heal necessary to really allow that execute to flourish.
Yeah, at this point, Aquarius is still feeling comfortable. He's ahead of maniaK in experience, so even though he's took a spill just now, he's still doing a good spot. Ahead in terms of net worth as well, second only really to emilitoo, who's just been farming like crazy this game. The 2 hunters have not been disturbed, and they've been very freely just kind of farming up the map.
Yeah, we'll see BaRRa somewhere around the 20-minute mark. All the action on solo, there's probably not a whole lot of likelihood that BaRRaCCuDDa is going to be able to make his way over anytime soon. Adapting, though, going up into the air. Seems like he wants to maybe commit onto Baskin. Will manage to find that knockup on the Cosmos, but he's got to be careful now. Supernova off the mark.
wasn't really there in time to follow up off the ultimate, so Supernova felt forced. Baskin now wants to come in looking for emilZy, has dropped at the Raijin. JeffHindla goes in for the taunt, and Tycho Drums is right there to follow up. They all line up, and emilZy ends up falling first. Now up in the air is Aquarius. He's looking for a target as maniaKK goes in aggressively. Not going to get the execute, but the stun is there.
They are able to push them back, though. 5 members still alive from Spacestation, but not the healthiest team in the world, and that's going to prompt NRG, despite being down a member, to go and pull the Gold Fury. They've got the burst damage to shred this between the Soul and Jing Wei.
They feel confident with these 200 that they have. They can force this. JeffHindla grabs the 2-man taunt. Petrify comes out. emilitoo does get JeffHindla in response. Adapting goes in aggressively. Aegis keeps him alive, but Aqua comes on the backside, takes down maniaKK. Yammyn gets chunked, has the Aegis, but Aquarius cannot be deterred. Even in the disapparate form, he's coming for you. Juking around the Gold Fury's not going to save you. Double kill for the solo laner.
A ring around the Rosie, and now it's emilitoo on the run. Taunted despite getting that agility off. Won't make the difference as andinster cleans up the hunter from NRG, and now it's Spacestation's turn to maybe look at this Gold Fury.
They've got it down below half HP. Adapting and emilZy are the only ones around, and not much steal potential there. Spacestation grabbed the Gold Fury. emilZy now has to retreat. No real chance that he can get any more kills on the backside. Despite how strong Spacestation have looked, Taco, look at this chart. The game is so close.
That looked like NRG's fight to win, though, initially. Jeff finds some pretty good taunts in the process, but then emilitoo just comes through with some massive crits, takes down a member from Spacestation. That automatically throws the fight a little bit out of the loop, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, Aquarius sneaks around onto the backside and just starts going ham in the backline from NRG. But because everybody got so spread apart from each other, they weren't able to support each other in the way that they would have liked to around this Zhong.
And we haven't had a ton of fights on this duo lane side, Taco, but this time we did, and we got to see these 2 hunters be a part of the fray. As you said, emilitoo kind of puts it to JeffHindla a bit towards the beginning of that, but BaRRaCCuDDa got a nice Petrify off the JeffHindla taunt as well. Unfortunately, it was just a ton of return damage that goes back onto the Athena, and JeffHindla ends up falling. But once these hunters become a more frequent part of this fray, things are going to get even more hectic. Don't let the 9-3 kill line fool you. This game is still very, very close.
You're totally right on that one, Finch. With only 2,000-ish gold separating these two, that's pretty much nothing at the 18-minute mark. You can make up 2K gold with one tower push, even, depending on how it goes. maniaKK, however, he wishes that he had somebody to help him out with this one. Just getting absolutely collapsed on. A little bit of overkill with that ultimate out of Aquarius, but can't blame him for being excited about it. Pyromancer due to respawn pretty soon here, and that could very well be Spacestation for the taking also, as emilitoo looks to invade the red buff.
BaRRaCCuDDa here to defend, but he's got to be careful. Adapting is nearby, and that's the dash. Petrify comes out, but Defender of Olympus being channeled from JeffHindla. Supernova just barely off the mark, but BaRRaCCuDDa does eventually end up falling. JeffHindla's low as well, but so is Adapting on the backside, and jumping in aggressively is Andy to bring him down, but Yammyn keeping him in it with a double kill finding Baskin.
Yammyn just making plays all by his lonesome in the mid lane now, saving that team fight to an extent because BaRRa bought them so much time, but it doesn't even matter. Aquarius finds Yammyn as he's trying to make his escape.
This Blink has been doing work. 5-1 and 6 now for this Thanatos out of the solo lane for Spacestation Gaming. Level 18, right up there with emilitoo at the top of the game and making his presence known. maniaKK struggling a bit, 1-4-2 on this Zhong.
emilZy saving that blue buff for his solo laner there. Thought for a second that Aquarius is going to be able to strip that one again one more time, but just doesn't end up working out for him. Still a 3-level lead over maniaKK, and it's not like maniaKK's really been doing anything wrong. It's just that he's been rotating into the team fights, trying to assist, and Spacestation just throw themselves on top of him immediately.
Yeah, they're very willing to all in on top of maniaKK here right now, but luckily Yammyn has been playing well to sort of balance it back out for them. Look at this, he's all in on this attack speed, got 2 rings on the finger, at least at this point in the game. A lot of the times we see Soul still built just like a traditional mage, and the auto attacks are like sort of an extra bonus. Yammyn seems to be all in on her as like a second hunter.
I'm not completely convinced that this is going to be a hasten ring just yet. There is still some possibility for him to go elsewhere, and that the Telkines as a very real option.
Sure.
And if he does choose to continue building into the hasten, I wouldn't be upset to see that either. He does have the Bancroft's talent. I think that amount of lifesteal complements very nicely whenever you're trying to go for the auto attack based soul, because she does fulfill the role of a hunter, and anytime you have a Fafnir on the team, Fafnir, Jingwei, Soul, that's enough shred to take down almost any objective.
Absolutely, they'll burn through these structures. We'll have to just keep our eye on exactly where Yammyn wants to go with the back end of that build, as once again, things quiet down for a moment here in the game. Pyro and Fire Giant are back up, but keep your eyes on Gold Fury as well. We're 55 seconds from that. These teams could be posturing towards fighting over it, but 21 minutes in, control over the right side of the map might be a little bit more important as NRG grab the Pyro.
Spacestation, not really all that interested in trying to contest it, and not really in position to do so either. Now though,
Three-man.
Beautiful time.
Gonna immediately force out the Draconic Eruption. Supernova dropped just so Yammyn can try and stay alive. EmilZy and Yammyn have to use their ultimates in response. A great dash taunt in from JeffHindla. Looks like he used the blink for that one, and that's what really sets it up.
Maybe a little bit too early though, because that Gold Fury is just about to respawn. They did manage to pull out 2 ults, and with those 2 ults not on the table for defending that Gold Fury, there's possibilities now for emilitoo to be in a lot of trouble. Last spread being applied onto the Hunter. Purification beads have been popped also, but Andy's eating some huge crits now.
emilitoo sitting out them 329 crits, and that is enough to get andinster to leave on his way. They grab the tier 1 tower and left, but it does cost Defender of Olympus and Last Breath. So yes, they forced out Yammyn and emilZy's ultimate, but expend 2 of their own, only for the tier 2 tower. They might not have enough control to go for gold.
Oh, you hate to see him do it to them, but Adapting just lost his speed buff to Aquarius. And I don't know when he's going to find out about it, but that is by far the worst thing Aquarius has done to NRG this entire match so far.
Yeah, there's a chance if we only have player cams and no other information, we can still find out when Adapting realizes his Gold Fury now is below half HP. The shred from NRG is ridiculous.
That was what, maybe 1.5 seconds at best?
It was so fast.
Aquarius now in a little bit of trouble, doesn't have his team close by to assist him just yet. They are right around the corner, and emilZy actually taking the brunt of that charge from Spacestation. Baskin, I believe, did proc his Soul Reaver, though, onto the Fafnir, which could explain some of that large chunk of damage. Sure enough, he's going to have to sit out for another 25 seconds until that's available to him one more time, but NRG's got to do something about this Gold Fury.
Adapting's up in the air. He lands on the backside of BaRRaCCuDDa. Baskin responds to the Taiko drums, mixed with Petrify to cause a whole heap of trouble. Draconic Rupture from emilZy is not enough to deter emilitoo, who takes down Baskin. Aquarius is low on the right-hand side and has 3 members hunting him down, but they are relatively low. Blink allows him to reposition. JeffHindla gets a 2-man taunt, but no one there to help. emilitoo on a rampage, but at least 1 more kill comes out from Andy.
Andy looking for another one, finds it onto Emil. Now he's just going to try and get his escape off, looking for the ambush over the wall. Doesn't have the cooldown, however, and Yammyn going to make sure to take him down for it. And Aquarius, he forgot everybody's still moving this way to try and follow him, but he might just be tanky enough to survive it.
They're going to try and find the full-on deicide. They've already gotten a 4v2 or 4
But they're chasing
for themselves. They are chasing here a little bit longer than perhaps they should have. Gold Fury was an option, but instead they look for Aqua. They give up on him now, and now it looks like they should be able to go get Gold Fury without much trouble.
That's all Aquarius was trying to do, was just take a little bit of that distraction factor, but Spacestation probably knows there's not much to really defend here. If Aquarius tries to sacrifice his own life in the hopes that JeffHindla's ultimate could buy them some more time, they run the risk of then losing those 2 members, and Fire Giant is something that you don't want to see fall into the hands of NRG.
Taco, the later we get into this game, the scarier Soul and Jingwei are going to be, and I think we've finally started to see that in that last team fight. emilitoo's damage was absolutely absurd, and Adapting definitely helped out with it.
I feel like that fight was Spacestation's to take, but Aquarius pulled the trigger just a little bit too early on that execute while he was up in the air, because he landed down on 2 members from NRG, but they were just shy of hitting that execute threshold. So as a result, instead of getting a nice double kill going for the team, Spacestation ended up short with having expended almost all of their team fighting abilities, and then they started getting spread out, much like what they were doing to NRG early on.
JeffHindla, blink, taunt, maniaK hit by the Petrify, Aquarius there to follow up with the Scythe, and Zhong never stood a chance, not in the 4v1. Tier 2 tower and right comes down. Spacestation have made a point to harass this Zhong.
Hey, this is just so back and forth, but now it's Yammyn all by himself in the mid lane. Adapting's going to make sure to help him out. This T2 tower undoubtedly going to end up falling, and if they're not careful, they could lose their Phoenix.
It's going to be 2 members trying to defend in right, whereas Yammyn and Adapting are going to continue to push in mid. And since they were ahead, this is a chance for them with the heat stacked to maybe get this Phoenix. They do lose the tier 2, and instead of backing Spacestation, they're going to go right for the FG. Aquarius here. He has Defender of Olympus coming out from Yammyn, not able to get the last shot and take the Phoenix, but Adapting is willing to come in and give his life for it. And no, he doesn't even give his life, he makes it up to the tree.
They have to go for the Fire Giant. That's the only play left available for them right now. They can't end up losing everything off of this trade. EmilZy and emilitoo going to be forced to back, but so is Baskin. I'm not sure that Spacestation are healthy enough to make the play for Fire Giant like they would have liked.
It's hard to believe this is only game 1 in the upper bracket as andinster goes in aggressively and Aquarius dunks in on top of EmilZy. Ends up falling here too. emilitoo trying to jump away, airstrike over the wall, but JeffHindla is waiting for him on the other side. Taunt for the control and andinster for the damage. Now with those 3 kills, Spacestation can go for FG.
They might have lost the Phoenix, but I'm not sure that's going to end up mattering here because they can take a few of their own if they manage to take down this Fire Giant. Adapting still around, but he doesn't have that through the Cosmos. That was probably their best steal opportunity. And without it, I don't think that maniaK or Adapting are really all that interested. In fact, no, they're just going to do what they can to push out those waves as far as possible, buy themselves as much time as possible before they have to start worrying about Spacestation barging down the front door.
Just what an impressive match that we've seen here so far. NRG with the awareness to push down the tier 2 in middle lane and then dive for the Phoenix as well. Yammyn does end up getting controlled as Aquarius and JeffHindla come back to defend, but even Adapting dives in to get the last hit, makes up onto the tree, gets away. Meanwhile, Spacestation grab a tier 2, they force a fight. These are just high-level plays being made quickly, rapidly, and we're seeing what it's like when these 2 teams battle it out.
And that is what's so much fun about these 2 teams duking it out, Finch, because it is so back and forth. You see one fantastic play from NRG, and then the next thing you know, you're expecting Spacestation to kind of just wait it out and let that one sink in, but then they just throw one right back into the face of NRG, so you never really know who's going to actually have the upper hand. And finally, this Fire Giant secure for Spacestation feels like the first real moment that they can really start charging down these structures.
Well, now NRG have to decide, do they want to defend on the tier 2 or on the Phoenixes? At least for now, they're showing presence on the tier 2, and Spacestation are right here at the front door. They're not going to fall back. They are indeed going to come in and try and take this fight. JeffHindla tanks up for a moment, but they're not ready to engage just yet.
Looking at Adapting here, hovering his speed buff. There are no wards for Spacestation, so they have no idea that the Ratatoskr is there. andinster going to be able to spot him out now. Let his team know that their jungler definitely has some other motives in mind. Adapting wants to try and defend his speed buff also. Let's keep that in mind. And we all know that he's really lurking for that speed.
Taunt onto emilZy, forces Draconic Corruption to come out early. Adapting goes up onto the tree and has his target set onto BaRRaCCuDDa. Beads are too late. He's already been knocked up. Baskin controls to help him out. Defender of Olympus on BaRRaCCuDDa as well. A lot to make sure he lives, and Adapting dies in trade. maniaK wants Aqua, but he goes right up into the air, and he's looking for the execute, but who's going to be the target? It's maniaK.
And he finds... Also, on the backside, maniaK does end up falling to the execute, but Yammyn gets toppled. Also, Aquarius still diving inside of this T2. emilitoo forced out of the airstrike, and he's still pushing forward. And emilZy and emilitoo just barely left to survive here. This should be a mid-Phoenix for Spacestation, and more importantly, their mid-Phoenix is due to respawn pretty soon here. Possibly even game 1 if they choose to keep shoving.
It certainly could be. 5 members of Spacestation strong with FG. emilZy gets taunted in, jumps away. emilitoo nowhere to be found. Titan down to half HP. Trying to come in and defend BaRRaCCuDDa's low. emilZy does get him, but Titan below a quarter. Spacestation Gaming haven't done it yet, but they bring the Titan down and take down NRG in game 1.
First blood Spacestation. That is not something that I think a lot of people were expecting to hear today in this set, but it is clear that Spacestation have come to play, and they are not looking for a repeat from Spring.
Not at all, and they came out guns blazing. Aquarius, my man, picks the Thanatos, locks it in 10th pick, and he shows you exactly why. What an impressive performance. maniaK never got to have the impact he wanted to have. He was behind on the Zhong essentially all game long. Between andinster and Aquarius, their early to mid, they controlled the whole way.
Zhong has been a very prominent pick for the solo lane, specifically because of the fact that he has so much poke potential and so much safe farm eligibility. Normally, up until you see this Thanatos, it worked out so beautifully.
Yes.
Having the heals off of the creep wave into the poke with the scythe. I love the strategy there to just full commit to the boots rush. That's what really made the difference for me. That was the deal breaker on that Zhong solo.
Yeah, he did whatever it took to get off the ground running right from the beginning of the game. And was that enough to earn your MVP vote out there in the chat? Well, I think I'm saying yes. I'm definitely leaning towards Aquarius.
Yes. How do you not vote for the Thanatos solo?
Especially when it frags like that, right? What an excellent game from him. But really, Spacestation played so well as a team. You can always give credit over to JeffHindla. Defender of Olympus were perfect. Him keeping BaRRaCCuDDa alive in that last dive from adapting was so key. Adapting all ins, they turn around and BaRRa lives.
That was such a smart play by adapting also. You almost have to feel for
So
the
close.
jungler to an extent because he launches down, you think that he's got it, and then the next thing you know, he's forced to try and dive inside of a chokehold, and he just met the entirety of Space Station in a single moment.
Well, if you can believe it, that was only game one. We have a full 3-game set here still to go, but Space Station were the ones that would strike first. Let's see what the devs thought of that game one and get their thoughts going into game two.
Well, it's living up to expectations, let's be honest.
yeah.
But Space Station Gaming finding the game one win.
That was awesome. It was a great game between these two, but honestly, Space Station felt like they were in control for about 90% of that game. There was the one fight around Gold Fury that opens it up for NRG, and that's where I thought this composition might start falling apart because Space Station heavily lacked frontline. Athena's not the best peeling guardian. She's much more of an initiator.
And
so
boy,
whenever
did Jeff do well on that.
He really did, and once Jeff goes in for taunt, who's protecting Baskin? Who's protecting BaRRa? And that is exactly what happened during that Gold Fury fight. But that from there on, Space Station changed the way that they were making their engagements happen. They were making sure that it was a little bit of poke damage first, where the Raijin looks great. That's where the Thanatos can be really good. And then it was all in commits all at once and not allowing NRG to spread the team fight out. Space Station grouped up much better, and that's a historic weakness of double hunter compositions is their lack of AoE damage. Soul can mitigate that.
Yep.
maniaKK really could not. He was behind all game long. Aquarius really had his way with maniaKK in lane.
And he will get the MVP vote from the fans at home too in Makes the Chat. Aquarius with that MVP. No real surprise. And like we said, we saw Benji use this against a Zhong earlier on in this tournament yesterday. But you can see the reasons why this is so dominant in the laning phase. I mean, slows are the only real thing that a Zhong can really do against this Thanatos, but he doesn't care because he can make himself immune.
Exactly, and it's so easy to chase him down. Just that level 2 solo kill, that screams to me inexperience against Thanatos solo. It's not like Aquarius did any sort of crazy thing. I mean, sure, skipping the blessing and going straight for the boots, that a little bit different, but that's a thing where you press tab and go, okay, I understand what's happening now. This isn't a big deal. Clearly, maniaKK just wasn't ready for what Aquarius and Space Station had planned, and I think that this is the silver bullet that Space Station's kind of been waiting for to slay NRG potentially. I think that, I mean, you and I were talking about it in between games. Historically, I mean, go back to Season 2, Season 3, Season 4. Every time these two teams meet up at Worlds, one player from Space Station or Cloud9 or Luminosity, whatever, is playing well, but it's not like they've got a massive advantage over their opponent. BaRRaCCuDDa was playing some of the best Smite I've ever seen out of a Hunter, but so was emilitoo during that time.
That's fair.
And so NRG always was close enough and they outplayed Space Station or LG or whatever. This is the first time, that was the first time in a long time that I felt like an NRG laner was simply outclassed. I think that Aqua just played so much better than maniaKK, and if that's the strategy for Space Station, if they just say, hey, let's just get Aqua ahead, Andy can be over there. He and Andy played beautifully together. Their synergy was really great. If I'm Space Station, man, Aqua, what do you want? How do you win us this game? Because I honestly think, forget Baskin, forget BaRRa, forget andinster, forget JeffHindla. The carry for Space Station right now is Aquarius.
Oh, we were talking, I was like, well, do they ban Thanatos? I see him, and you're like, no, it's Zhong.
Yeah,
They're
you just don't
not
take
gonna pick
Zhong.
it.
Yeah, you just don't take Zhong.
But that opens the door for Space Station to take that themselves as well.
It does.
So, going to be an interesting one to see what happens with the Zhong Thanatai situation.
I think that NRG probably takes first pick again. If I'm on NRG, I would say I want first pick again, and instead of double banning Chernobog Artemis, I ban Zhong and whatever other hunter that I think is too good to make sure that Space Station doesn't get it, and I try and get one of those two hunters for Emil. Emil had a huge lead over BaRRaCCuDDa in that game, and Jing has those great team fights in the late game, but doesn't have that takeover potential like an Artemis or a Chernobog really can, to just put their foot down and say, I'm winning us this game right now.
Yeah.
Jingwei has great performances. She's consistent. She's safe, but it's a difference. So I think that's where I'd give it to NRG, is give Emil Chernobog or Artemis, let him take over in the mid to late game like he always does whenever NRG has their back against the wall. Emil is the most clutch player in Smite's history by my estimation. I'm giving him a carry right now and telling him to go win us a game.
I'm also looking at the two support players. I mean, I think NRG kind of accepted that Jeff would get Athena, but I don't think they respected it as much as they needed to. There was some big taunts from JeffHindla that game.
Yeah.
Whereas what I saw from emilZy, he didn't look that comfortable on that Fafnir, to be honest. He barely got his ultimate off in time sometimes. It kind of seemed a little bit awkward from them too. So a little bit nerves from emilZy, and Jeff looking very comfortable here.
It stood out to me during their pregame interview that emilZy didn't sound super confident in this game. And it's not like, you know, previously with NRG, he has had that kind of, you know, we got to play our game, we'll wait and see.
Sure.
But I think back to his Obey days, and, you know, I know a lot of people in the community think of emilZy as a little bit arrogant at times, and he certainly can have that air about him. But during Obey, in the last season, in Season 3, it was very quiet confidence, wasn't it? It was kind of like, yeah, we think we got a really good idea on what's going on in the meta, and we just feel really good about this. But you're right, he looks stressed. He didn't play very loose that game overall. And I wonder if NRG is kind of feeling some heat right now.
Maybe they are, but they've both been around the block for a little while. We'll see what